Dean, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Omer, for having me. And I wanted to say I've been a long-time listener. I actually looked at my podcast just a couple weeks ago when we set this up, and it took a lot of scrolling, but I got towards the bottom, and it was 2016 was the first episode that I listened to you. It was episode 119. So, and I also want to say congrats. I looked today and I saw you had 400 episodes. That's a big deal. So congrats.
Thank you. Awesome. So you've been around for a while, and I think 2016 was about the time that you went, like, that's when you shifted, right? Went all in the business.
Just a little before that, like that 15-ish era. So that's when I started to have to learn, right? So I started watching you and a few other podcasts, and so you have really helped. You and your guests have really helped shape my career on the clock and in our trajectory. So thank you for that.
Awesome. You made my day. Thank you.
No, you're very welcome.
Do you have a favorite quote, something that inspires or motivates you that you can share with us?
I do. I was actually looking the other night for the source of this. I couldn't find it, but it's, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So that's something I've really learned over the years. I used to think about it the inverse, but I really think about it that way now.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting part of your story that will probably make more sense by the end of this episode when people know what the journey you've taken. So tell us about OnTheClock. What does the product do? Who's it for? And what's the main problem you're helping to solve?
So OnTheClock is, we do employee time tracking. End result is for payroll. So it is online phone app based. So an employer or manager can open an account with us. It's self-service, so it's very easy to use. They add their employees. Employees clock in and out. And then the end result is they can use their phone or the website. We do have GPS controls and geofencing, and it's very modern. And the end result is time cards that could be sent over to your payroll provider so your employees can get paid. We do have some additional features, like I mentioned, the GPS and geofencing. We also have PTO management. So employees can request PTO and managers can approve it, and then it ends up on time cards. You can also set up allotments and accruements for the employees as well. Quite a few options there. We do automatic overtime calculations as well. So that's a really great feature especially if somebody's doing it manually. That's a lot of work and a lot of errors as well.
So typically, like, how big are how big is your average customer?
Sure. We service SMBs, mostly the S's. It's in that below 20, 25 range is really our sweet spot.
25 employees.
Or less. But we definitely have accounts that have hundreds, and even some accounts that have, I think the highest account is right around 3,000 to 4,000 employees.
And give us a sense of the size of the business. Where are you in terms of revenue, number of customers, size of team, and that stuff?
Sure. So we're 22 team members right now. So 22 of us run OnTheClock. Revenue is, we don't disclose the exact number, but it's between 5 and 10 million. And as far as customer count, we're at right around 18,000 customers. And those are mostly here in the United States.
Great. And the business is bootstrapped. You've never raised money.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. Bootstrapped. I was a consultant back when we started. It was more of a passion project in the beginning. So I had a source of income. So I could work on this as much as I wanted to. And it was bootstrapped by me, really, so it was funded, but by myself.
So I think you launched the product OnTheClock, I think it was like 2004, but it sort of continued to be a passion project for like another 10 or 11 years. So you didn't go all in with the business until about 2016. Is that right?
Correct. Yeah, right in that 15, 16 era. It got to the point to where it was, at that point, it was profitable. It was to the point to where I really couldn't ignore it anymore. So really just decided, like you said, to go all in. And I had a consulting company here in the Metro Detroit area, computer consulting. So I would go and write various software for customers, custom software. And right about that time, it was just like, if we're going to do something with this, now's the time. And I rehomed all my customers. There was a couple other small businesses that I was working with that I went ahead and moved those off and really put 99% of my effort into OnTheClock.
Great. Okay. So first of all, let's go back to 2003, 2004. Where did the idea for this product come from?
Yeah, so I'm kind of a nerd, so I still remember the moment. Actually, I was sitting at my kitchen table with my laptop, and I was reading through some small business and accounting forums. You remember those? They're still around, actually, a lot. But I was noticing this trend. They were all complaining they couldn't find a reliable and easy to use time tracking system for their company or for their clients if they were the accountants. And I was like, I can build that for them. And I was a software developer by trade, consultant, entrepreneurial spirit as well. So I literally the next day started doing my research, and within a few months had the first version out. So that would have been, we actually just celebrated our 20th anniversary here just last month. So that would have been right around June of 2004.
Okay. So most developers, if they get excited about an idea, they often jump to building the product and defer talking to customers later. How did you approach this? Did you do the same?
Pretty much the same thing. I did validate, though. I surveyed competition to see what the competition was out there, or potential competition, because I didn't have a product. Definitely looked and found that there was definitely a few players out there, so that there was some validation there that there's a market. Also did a lot more research in the forums and other areas, and found that there was a need. So I didn't talk to actual customers, but also just using logic, right? So small businesses that have hourly employees have to track time. So those three elements really went into it. And even back then, I said it was a passion project. It was almost like if it didn't work, it wasn't the end of the world. I wasn't going to dump millions of dollars into it. It was my time, which is valuable, but it would have only been my time.
Okay, so a few months, you got the product built. How long did it take you to find the first customer?
So first customer came in. We had to do a little paid at the time, and paid search, PPC, Google AdWords mostly. I'd say within a couple days, we had a couple signups, but the funny story, Feral Hair is, they signed up with us within the first month. They are still with us. So they do hair replacement. I believe they're down in Florida. And they're still with us. So they've been paying us for 20 years. It's pretty awesome.
Wow. You said we had to do some PPC. Was there a we, or was it just you at that point?
There was an I've morphed into the we scenario because there is a we. There's been a we now for a lot of years. So it was I.
All right. And then, so first customer in the first month, what about the first 10?
So we were receiving at that point, I would say 2 to 3 signups per day, not a whole lot, at least compared to now. And the first 10 actual customers, meaning that they chose us, right? Signups are different than somebody adopting or converting over to a paying customer. That would have happened roughly within the first, probably 2 months. We had the first 10.
And where were these people coming from? Was this all PPC?
So we did PPC for about a month, and then SEO started kicking in. So they started just doing Google searches or whatever search engine they used back then.
Yeah, 2004, when SEO was a little bit different to today.
Yes, very different. It was a lot simpler back then.
Yeah. Okay, great. So you've got some SEO traffic, some organic search traffic. You're getting these signups, and getting to that first 10 didn't take that long.
Yeah, 2-3 months maybe at most.
So for many founders, that's a great sign that, basically strangers are coming along and they are signing up, and you were charging people, right? This wasn't like a free plan or something like that. People are actually coming in and paying.
We did have a free plan for 2 employees or less. So, and we still have that plan today. So, it's really designed to help really small businesses. And the idea is that as your business grows, you use us for, a year or two. And when you hit that 3rd employee, then you start paying. But those first 10 customers, I would have called the paying customers.
So I think that's a great sign, right? I mean, for many founders, it can take them much longer to get those first 10 customers. So great signal. It almost feels like, okay, you've validated the idea, found problem solution fit, got the first 10 customers that we all, talk about. Great. Let's just focus on this business, double down. But that's where it just continued to be, as you said, a passion project for many years. You were still doing the consulting work, and you started building other products as well. So just tell me what was going through your head at the time and why you sort of left it as this passion project for a while.
So yeah, I'm a builder, so I like to build things. There's nothing nicer than just sitting down with a clean slate and building something. So that entrepreneurial spirit really fuels that, right? It really, so OnTheClock was probably the 2nd or 3rd product that I had built. The one right before that was a check drafting solution, like a payment solution. It involves, it's not electronic. It was a little more old school, where you end up with a paper check draft. That was one that is actually still in existence today and still actually somewhat profitable. I don't run it anymore. I built a database, kind of a glorified Excel database type product, where customers could go ahead and create these database tables with different field types, maybe phone number, name, that type of stuff. And they might use it for like a contact list or something like that. That didn't go too far. So I ended up shutting that one down for after a couple of years. And then we did a survey, very similar to like a Survey Monkey, simpler though than it is now, at least. So you could survey people for various things. That was actually up until around 5 or 6 years ago. And I had given it away for free. So I expected at some point to just charge for it. But it really, that one I just kind of let stay free for a while. And without really proper SEO and proper maintenance, if you will, it just kind of faded off.
Yeah. Okay. So let's kind of fast forward to 2014 or 2015, which is around the time that I think you said you hit your first million in ARR. So, a pretty long time. We're talking about a decade to get to that first million. But even at that point, it was still a passion project. You were still doing consulting and other stuff, right? So you're seeing this business grow, but it almost sounds like you were reluctant to kind of jump in with both feet on this business.
Yeah, I don't know if it was reluctance so much. I tend to have my hands in 3 or 4 or 5 different things at a time. So it was really just, I saw that it was one of my projects that I had, but I saw that it started to really accelerate, right? The growth, and it was probably it was the what would you say? I put my most attention on that particular project, so that obviously that's probably why it grew, right? So it got to the point to right around that 14, 15 time where I just had to make a decision. Okay, I can, let this kind of stay accelerating at its current rate, or I could really focus on one thing and try to make it awesome. So that's really the decision. And I was at a point in my career where I just really wanted to focus on one thing. I just wanted to make one thing really big. And that's why we focused. That's why I focused on that at that point.
Yeah, and I think especially once you get to the point where you've hit a million in ARR with small businesses, we're talking about a good number of customers who are going to need help with onboarding, who are going to need help with support. There might be bugs. There's, you know, requests for new features and stuff like that. So just letting it just kind of exist organically, and it becomes harder and harder. And I think maybe that's probably the situation you were in. Was there a we at that point, or was it still just you?
So right around 15, my brother Mark, who is also a software developer and entrepreneur, he was looking to build apps, and we didn't have an app at the time. OnTheClock didn't have an app at the time, and so at that point, I had really started to pivot towards going all in on it, and he wanted to build apps, and he was kind of looking to go all in on something too. I said, well, why don't you come on board? We can both focus on this, and you can build the app, and I'll continue just focusing on the website. And so he came in, and he actually did the same thing I did. He had a consulting company as well, so he rehomed all of his clients. I rehomed all of my clients, and we really just went all in. And about a year or so after that, we brought on Samantha. She's still with us today. So she's awesome. She's now moved up to customer success manager. So that's a really cool thing to see. And from there, we just, as we scaled, as we grew, we just kept scaling. We hired, brought on more people, and really continued to build out the product. And that's where we're sitting on now with 22 people and about 18,000 customers.
When you and I were talking earlier, you said that you didn't really want to hire people. It just seemed like you just had a whole bunch of, negative, kind of thoughts about what that would mean for the business, for you, your time, and all that stuff. So just tell me what was going on there, and why you wanted to just go alone.
Sure, absolutely. So I'm a people person. So it's not anything against people in general, but in the consulting world, I worked with people in the front, sometimes the CEOs, the owners and such. And then I would also work with people out in the back, if it was like a shop environment. And I'm friendly, so I got to know everybody. And there was always this like war going on between management and people, like hourly employees. And I was like, I don't want that. I don't, I do. Not all work environments were like that, but a lot of the ones that I saw were. So I really had to make a decision that when we did expand and as we did scale, that I was going to do my absolute best to not have that environment. So, I am a people person, people first. I love to see people move up into the right in any dimension that they're looking to move in that direction. It always have been. But really just had to adjust my, hence the quote earlier, really had to adjust my business philosophy on bringing on a team, and made that decision. And so far, we've been really good. We have an extremely low turnover rate at OnTheClock. And we view our support people, we call them our specialists. We view that as an incubator. So you can come in there and like I said with Samantha earlier, she started in product support, and now she's moved up to customer success. So we've had a few of those instances over the years, and that's really awesome to see.
Great. So one of the things I want to clarify is this journey to the first million in ARR. People might be listening to this and thinking, okay, Dean built this product, did a bit of PPC for a month, then SEO kicked in, and, yes, it took 10 years to get to the first million, but it almost sounded like you weren't really doing that much. Like people coming in, signing up, and, kind of becoming customers and stuff like that. Was it a a difficult thing, or did you just get lucky and the thing started just growing on its own without a huge amount of effort?
No, I did put a lot of effort into it, but it wasn't full time, and it was only me for that first 10 or so years. Being a consultant, I definitely had customers that required my time, right? So if I had to estimate, I'd say I probably spent, maybe 20 hours a week on the clock, and that was continuing to build out the product, right? So, talking to customers, listening to their needs, and learning SEO, learning marketing, and just learning every other part about running a SaaS company that you have to learn, and really just continued to build it. So yeah, it wasn't a hands-off by any means, but it wasn't a full-time either. So you might call it like a half-time. So that was probably, but I also work really fast, right? So it's, even though it was only 20 hours, it was still, when you're just, hence the quote again, I was moving fast because I was alone, right? And I could just veer off and do these things really quickly.
How easy or hard was it to sell the product? I mean, we talked about the first 10 customers weren't that hard, but it's still a relatively new product. It probably didn't have all the features it does today. And I'm sure there were already incumbents there in the market that maybe, these businesses were more familiar with. So what were you doing to differentiate yourself and, make that decision for people to choose you an easier one?
Sure. So a lot of it I would attribute to learning marketing and learning SEO and talking to customers, right? So talking to customers, reviewing their requests, what they're asking for, and then taking that and building it into the product for one, but also listening to their pain points and then bringing that into marketing, and really just showing them that they have, if they're doing a search for online time tracking or whatever it is. So as soon as they hit the homepage, the idea is for them to say, "Oh yeah, that is something I'm struggling with, and if I try this product, that struggle should be alleviated." So, and then they would try, right? It was free. It was a free trial, typical SaaS type product, at least of our type SaaS product, and they would try it. And if you could get them to an aha moment quickly, meaning they could quickly see, in our case, it's seeing time cards calculated, that was a no-brainer for them, right? So they're like, back then, there wasn't a whole lot of online time tracking systems, and anything that was in place was a software-based, right? So you have servers and wires and, punch clocks all over. And they didn't do a very good job at it either. And there was a lot of manual calculation where we did it all automatically. So as soon as they kind of got to that aha moment, it sold itself, basically.
I think it's interesting that you point out the talking about customer pains on the homepage when people arrive there. Most of the times you'll see websites and they'll talk about benefits and features and all that stuff. And sometimes the pain gets lost in there somewhere. It's not even mentioned anywhere. Why did you do that? Why was that important to you to, it almost feels like, there was some level of like, education going on there that, or was it about like, again, just kind of take us through the thought process in terms of why you took that approach.
Yeah. So, it's for sure bringing the pain points to the surface. So generally you may be able to affirm this as well. if you are searching the web for something, or the app store, or talking to a friend, or whatever it is, in particular, like a product, a software product, you probably hit an event in your day or your life where you're like, I've had too many, in our case, say time cards. I had too many bad payroll runs. This is a pain point, right? My employees are getting underpaid, overpaid. So I'm going to search for an automated solution. Or I'm spending too much time doing this, right? We calculated it's several minutes per employee per pay period. So you could spend hours a week calculating time cards. So that's an event that happened and you're just fed up with it. So if you can bring that to the surface from a marketing perspective, you tell the customer or potential customer that this product solves your problem. So if you make that direct connection, that's really important. The other thing that's really important too is letting them know like what your product is. We were searching for, this is a few years back, to replace our project management software, and I was just helping, doing some searching, and I found, you type in project management, online or whatever it is, app store, and I was finding so many non-project management softwares. It was just amazing. There were these softwares that weren't even close to project management that were doing not only SEO, but paid PPC as well, that were showing up at the list. So it's also really important to identify what your product is and what it does. Like for us, it's employee time tracking, right? So that's the other element, along with the pain points that I would definitely have people look at.
You also told me earlier that word of mouth has been a decent driver of leads and new business. Most of it coming from SEO, but word of mouth is also important. And you also mentioned this idea of like the purple cow, right? That Seth Godin talks about. So maybe just explain, for people who don't know what the purple cow thing is, just explain in very simple terms what that means. And then I'm trying to understand like how you went about trying to be a purple cow with your product.
Sure. So the purple cow is a concept by Seth Godin. So he is, This is Marketing is one of his books. So the concept is that, I will probably butcher this, but the concept will get out. The concept is that, if you're driving up and down a road by a farm every day of your life, there's cows. You stop, you don't notice them anymore as you're driving by every day. And then when you see a purple cow, you stop, you get out of the car, your kids get out of the car, you're taking pictures, you're taking selfies with it, with the purple cow, you're sending it to your friends, you're putting it on social. So the concept is how do you stand out, right?
And I would just add to that in the context of, a SaaS startup, it's really about how do you make your product outstanding? How do you make it unique, right? And that is often a very difficult question to answer, right? So how did you do that? I mean, was it about focusing on unique aspects of the product or features, or was it about we're gonna just have outstanding, customer service or whatever? What was the first thing you picked to kind of become remarkable in this market?
So the first thing actually goes back to that original story when I was sitting at the table, where they were asking for two things. The pattern I saw was they were looking for an easy and reliable online time tracking system. I'm really good at making things easy. That's what I did as a consultant. I could take somebody's idea and make it as easy as possible. So that was one of the founding principles that we built into OnTheClock, was it has to be easy, right? So, and we actually, funny thing, we took all of our customer reviews, thousands of them, and we put them in a word cloud generator, and right in the middle was easy, because everybody was saying easy. So I thought that was really cool, but really just making it easy. So So when you get in there, you just know what to do. It's self-directing to the best of your ability. You don't have things hidden, underneath menus and behind tabs and such, at least the main features. So for us, it was making it easy. That's really our probably biggest purple cow.
And how did you do that? Did you interview customers? Was it looking at usage data? Was it just using your own hunch on how to make software easier? Like, how did you figure out how to make the product easier to use?
I think it really goes back to my consulting background. I'm a problem solver by just the way I am. So, it's really about the things that are important to you, putting them in a place that is easy for you to get at. So, for instance, even just earlier today, my product owner, Steve, and I were looking at a form, and there was a checkbox there. And I was like, but 99% of the people won't need that checkbox. So why are we putting it right there? Or, what if we moved it over here where the 1% do need it? Or button clicks, right? I'll fight over one button click. And if you do that 100 times, you've gotten rid of 100 button clicks, right? So it's things like that, and it's just intuition, really. Just placement of things on elements on a form or on the app. Making your navigation like in your website or your app, the top level items, like the main things that people want to do. I've seen so many products where one of the main things I want to do is buried 2 or 3 menus deep. And it's like, really? I mean, think about it for a minute.
Yeah. Okay. So it was mainly just about your experience of designing software and just, constantly looking at how to make the product easier to use.
Correct. And just a lot of intuition, and I use technology a lot. So, I'm always scrutinizing products when I'm using them. So I think all that just builds into that intuition.
Did you do anything to measure this or get feedback from customers? Like, how did you check the box that say, yeah, we made it easier to use over the last month because we did XYZ?
Yeah. I mean, talking to customers definitely helps. One classic example, we used some analytics tools, heat mapping tools in our website, and we started noticing this one really big red spot. People were clicking there a lot, and it turns out that they were clicking on their employee list. We have a concept of an employee list in our system. We're employee time tracking, this was early on. We had the employee list underneath a configure menu, right? So you had to click configure and then click employees. And, I looked at it and I'm like, well, that's 2 clicks. So we moved the employee to the top level and we eliminated 1 click. And all of a sudden the heat map went there, right? I mean, that's naturally what would happen. So that's one form of, using a tool to do that, a heat mapping tool. The other things we do, currently we're using some tools like Hotjar, screen recordings just to watch user behavior. It's hard to do that at scale, but you can definitely sit there and watch, a few dozen videos and get a mental image as to where, if they're sitting there and there's a pain point. And a lot of those tools will actually tell you where they are detecting pain points. One of them I thought was very interesting. They call it rage clicking. So if you're click, 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 so you don't want that, right? So if you see that, you want to figure out what's going on and fix it. So the tools help a lot. And a lot of it's just like, said, just using your product and, using it as a customer would use it, not as a developer would use it.
We talked about getting to the first million in ARR and SEO being the biggest driver, and then, coupled with word of mouth. Today, you said you were doing between 5 and 10 million in ARR. And is it still SEO and word of mouth driving growth?
Yeah, it really is. I mean, we definitely have some partner relationships with some of the payroll providers. And so when you have a partnership, and if you're in their marketplace, you will get customers from there. But the reality is that SEO and word of mouth are still our two big. App Store, ASO as well. Those are really starting to rise up. But those are really our three drivers of new signups and business.
Is your business like sensitive to Google changes? Like, we hear about people doing SEO, Google rolls out Panda or whatever the update is, and suddenly next day, traffic has disappeared overnight. What's have you seen those kinds of fluctuations? And you know, do you worry that having just such a dependence on SEO kind of gives it like a single point of potential failure?
Yeah, so I think so. The whole reason that Google, Bing, whomever released these updates is because one of the reasons, at least, is because people have learned to kind of game the system, right? You hear about the black hats, the gray hats. We never tried to really game the system. We just really tried to put out good content and educate our customers. So whether it's blogs or marketing pages. So to my knowledge, and we monitor it pretty well, we have never been dinged by any Google updates. I think simply because we just focus on producing good content for people.
You mentioned PPC at the beginning, like the first month. You said, "Hey, did that for a month, got my first customer or a handful before SEO kicked in." What's been your experience since then with using paid ads?
We've struggled. So we experimented a little bit on our own probably 4 or 5 years ago. Not being experts by any means, but the tools are relatively easy to use. And that failed pretty bad. And then we decided a few years ago to hire a firm that actually we knew some of their customers and that they'd served their customers really well. And the customers vouched for them. And that agency came in, and there were several people involved and a bit of setup time, and we spent a pretty good chunk of money, and I'm not kidding you, almost got nothing back. It was amazing, to the point to where we kind of went into research mode, and we're trying to figure out, is this fraud? Not fraud from the agency, but click fraud, or something like that. And it just failed really bad. I don't think it was the agency's fault, but we just kind of left that one be. And then we went out on our own a little bit too. This was probably a few years before that, 1 or 2 years before that, and really just said, okay, no, it was actually after that. I'm sorry, I'm getting them mixed up. And we tried to do it on our own, a smaller scale. And again, same result. So, it just didn't work for us. I think if we threw enough money at it, it would, but for our price point, it doesn't make sense.
Got it. So was the problem that you weren't getting enough leads, or it was too expensive to get the leads, or kind of a bit of both?
So what was happening is we could see in Google's portal, we could see that the clicks happening, but the clicks weren't translating to leads or signups for us. That's what we were seeing. So it was very difficult. We had several really smart people that worked with us looking at this, and we could not make heads or tails out of it. We had to chalk. And I've actually talked to a few people since then, over the last year or two, that have indicated that there is some fraud going on out there. It's not Google or the agencies. It's something else, and we're not even sure what drives it. It's always money that drives something, right? But we're not sure exactly what's driving that. Competitors, we don't know.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because on the one, I mean, it's the SERP, right? So you've got the results page, and for some reason, organic traffic going there is clicking the link, and you're getting healthy lead there. But for some reason, the other links on the page, which happen to be paid, don't seem to convert for you.
And we know our keywords. We know what marketing text to put in there. We've been doing it with SEO, the SERP, for years. But you do the same thing in paid, and it's like the quality of lead is almost zero. Like they click, but they don't do anything. They don't sign up. So it's the strangest thing. We literally spent days trying to figure it out.
Yeah. Often I talk to founders who will say, we tried paid ads and it didn't work. And it was like, well, how long did you try it for? And it was like, a few months or something. But you've tried repeatedly. This wasn't just like a one-off thing that we tried for a month and it didn't work. And you've tried with your own team and external, and it's kind of fascinating.
Yeah. And I've heard this story before from other people as well.
Okay. So when we started out, we said, you ran the business or build this product, and you were reluctant to hire people. And today you have got, a team of 22 odd people working on the business. How has your perspective changed about hiring people, team building, being a leader?
Yeah. So it's really, from a business perspective, it's really flipped, right? So you need that team to go far, right? So I'm in a position now to where I don't code anymore. It's been 4 or 5 years since I've written code. But I have a team of developers now. And they're amazing. They get us so much done. To have the key people in place is how you go far, right? So if it was still me just trying to do this, we would not be anywhere where we're at today. It wouldn't even be close. So there's a synergistic effect with bringing the people on, and I really like surrounding myself with people that are smarter than me at their craft. So, marketing, we want somebody there smarter than myself or leadership team at the craft. Customer success, development heads, CTO, those are people that we're putting into place strategically that are really just going to escalate it. And I just really love watching them, do their work, and then building their teams up too, right? So always escalating people and looking to just better their careers, better their home life to whatever extent we can. And culture's a big thing for me. Back probably just a little bit after we really started building our team, I had set our values, and it took about 6 months. Cause your values are, you don't so much come up with them, you have them, right? It's just a matter of getting them out on paper. And the first one is passion for people. So it's really just, building those people up. And one of the other ones is that your work should be meaningful, right? You should go home at the end of the day knowing you made a difference, and feeling good about it. So you put those values together, and that really builds our culture at work. So, we have, like I said, people describe our office like a family-like atmosphere where, we get along. We have a little cliche, but we have a Thursday lunch today. We had our Thursday lunch, and we order food. Today we had barbecue. It was great. And it was also Ken's birthday, one of my star software developers. So he got to choose. So we have the lunch. So that lunch isn't really part of the culture, but it's just something we do because we want to sit and eat together. But building the value, setting the values, building the culture, embodying the culture, watching people grow, that is helping people grow as well, is really a passion of mine. And I go home at the end of the day feeling really, really good about that.
Yeah, that's a complete 180, isn't it, from where you started?
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Okay, we should wrap up. Let's get on to the lightning round. I've got 7 quick fire questions for you. What's one of the best pieces of business advice you've received?
So the best advice that I've received and I probably would give is that have a vision for whatever it is you're trying to do, like literally form it in your head. And then once you have that vision, just go after it and don't stop.
What book would you recommend to our audience and why?
So a more recent book I just read, I actually had a book club at work with Nicole on this, is Scaling People. And it's Claire Hughes. She was the COO of Stripe. And she really gives like a playbook of how Stripe grew and scaled over the last 10 years or so. So that was really awesome. So you get to kind of see inside the company. It was entertaining and also very informative.
What's one attribute or characteristic in your mind of a successful founder?
Sure. It probably goes back to the first question, and that's vision. So if you can't see what you're trying to build and articulate that, especially if you have a team, like if you can't articulate to your team what you're trying to do, it won't happen. So, think about it like all the time, create a vision in your head, and that will drive you so far.
What's your favorite personal productivity tool or habit?
Sure. So there's probably 4 or 5 favorites, but one of them that I use every day is Inbox Zero. So it's kind of an older one, but it really helps me to not have 10,000 emails unread and missing things. And it really helps me to make sure that every email gets answered, or at least read. So that's really one of my big ones.
What's a new or crazy business idea you'd love to pursue if you had the time?
Yeah, so project management at work. Now we do a lot of projects, and we've tried several tools. Like I mentioned earlier, I was searching for project management and finding all these tools that weren't project management. But we've actually had some kind of semi-joking conversations that, do you want to go out and build a project management software? Because we know how to build it now because we've literally used all of the other ones and found all the flaws. So we think we could build one.
What's an interesting or fun fact about you that most people don't know?
Yeah, so it probably depends on who you ask, but I am a fairly outgoing person. I'll walk up and talk to anybody, but I really have an introverted side too. So, a lot of people might think I'm extroverted or leaning towards that way. But I definitely like that alone time as well.
And finally, what's one of your most important passions outside of your work?
Yeah, so it's probably the same as work. It's really just building up family, friends, helping them out. I have 3 kids. Love watching them grow, and they're still around, so that's fun. So we get to still hang out with them. So really, that would be the same, pretty much building people up.
Awesome. So Dean, thank you so much for joining me and sharing your story of building the business. If people want to check out On The Clock, they can go to ontheclock.com. And if folks want to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do that?
So for me, probably LinkedIn. If you just search for my name, Dean Mathews, 1T, that is the best way for anybody in the public to get a hold of me.
Great. We'll put a link to your LinkedIn profile in the show notes.
Great.
Awesome. Great. It's been great to chat. Thanks again for making the time. And I wish you and the team the best of success.
Thank you, Omar. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
My pleasure. All the best. Cheers.